everyone. Today I'm going to discuss child tax credit. But before that, I wanted to wish everybody a very happy and a wonderful and a joyous new year 2020. Okay, so now before I get into child tax credit, I wanted to distinguish between deductions and credits. Let's take an example that your taxable income is $100,000. And let's assume the tax rate is 10%, a flat rate. So the tax would be 10% of 100,000 is $10,000. Now if I give you a credit of $2,000, it will reduce the tax liability to 8,000, 10,000 minus 2,000. If I give you say a deduction of $10,000, it will reduce your taxable income, not the tax, the taxable income to 90,000. And the tax on 90,000 would be $9,000 at the rate of 10%. So as you see, even though you got a very big deduction, the tax only reduced by 1,000. So the point here is the credit reduces the tax liability and the deduction reduces the income on which the tax is calculated. So what is better? Mostly it is the tax credit, unless and until the deduction is really huge. It had to be more than $20,000 deduction for you to benefit more than the credit in this example that we just took. So I've prepared a slide and we are going to discuss and understand how child tax credit can help you this tax season. So here we are with the child tax credit slide. There are two types of child tax credits. One is a child tax credit, which is right here, as you can see, and the other one is additional child tax credit. So I'll discuss both of them. The good news is that for any child that is under the age of 17 as of 31st December 2019, you can get a child tax credit of $2,000 each. The number of children can be as many as you have. They all have to be under the age of 17, cannot be 17 on 31st of December 2019. So that was the first condition, the age test, which I told you here. The credit per child now is $2,000 per child. Earlier it used to be $1,000 only, now it is $2,000 per child. So that's good news. The second test is relationship test. Who is this child supposed to be? The child tax credit is available for children who are your own children, that is your biological children. Adopted children also qualify. Stepbrother, stepsister, half-brother, half-sister, and any children of these siblings or your child. So you can be a grandfather, grandmother. So that's a child definition. Support test. The support test says that the child must not be able to provide more than half of their own support. That is, it's not necessary that you provide the support, but the child should not be able to provide more than half of their own support. Okay, so that was one more test. Then the next test is the dependency test. The child must be a dependent of the taxpayer. Now, in some cases, this dependency test depends on the dependency test, which I'll discuss in another video. But what I want to bring out here is that the dependency of a child can be transferred between parents, say if the parents are divorced. So you can feel the parent with who the child lives can hand over this deduction by filling out form 8332, which is mentioned right here, and he or she can sign and give it to the other spouse, and the other spouse can attach it to the return and claim the dependency of the child and then claim the child tax credit. So you can move this dependency by using this form in case of divorced parents. Then the child should not have filed a joint return with his or her spouse is a condition, and if he has, it should only be to get a refund on the return. This one, the citizenship test, is very important and is a little bit newer. There are more changes to it. The child has to have a valid social security number. A tax identification, ITIN, will not work. An adoption tax identification number will not work. So the child has to have a social security number. Only then you can get the child tax credit. You may not have a social security number. You could have an ITIN, that's okay, but the child must have a social security number. The child must have lived with the taxpayer for more than half the year. That's another condition that has to be met. Now, phase out the AGI limit has also increased drastically. Earlier, it was a very low amount. Now, if a married filing jointly couple can have an AGI of $400,000 and still get the full $2,000 tax credit per child. If you're a single head of household, qualifying widow, or married filing separately, as is shown here, the limit is $200,000. And you can get a full child tax credit if your income is $200,000 or lesser. This is what has been mentioned here. The phase out happens at 5% of the AGI once it crosses over the threshold that's mentioned here, the 200,000 and the 400,000. Keep in mind, there's a concept of non-refundable credit. That means that you can get a $2,000 tax credit which can only reduce the tax liability to zero. You cannot get an extra refund beyond if your tax liability was $1,000, so you can only claim $1,000 of child tax credit. But don't be sad about this. There is additional child tax credit which can be claimed, which can actually provide you a refund without you having paid any tax liability, without you having any tax liability at all. That additional child tax liability is limited to $1,400 and is called a refundable credit. That means it can even go, say your tax liability was zero, you can still get $1,400. Okay, but this is what a refundable tax credit is. And a non-refundable credit, you cannot go below zero. So you cannot get a refund if you didn't have any tax liability. So the condition is, you don't have to remember it. I have it there just for the sake of completeness. It's 15% of earned income minus $2,500 or $1,400, whichever is lesser. There is another condition which can be used if you have 3 or more children. If this is the amount of the additional child tax credit. So let me sum this up a little bit. So the child tax credit is now $2,000. A married couple can have $400,000 of income and still get a child tax credit. And single and the other filing status can be $200,000 and get a child tax credit. The child has to be a dependent, and basically, and the other conditions that I had mentioned there. These are the main conditions that have to be met. Now, what happens if the child is more than 17 years old? There is a new other dependent credit that has come out, which is $500, and you can get that credit. Remember, a dependent for dependency test is the age limit is 19 or 24 if the child is going to a college. But in the case of child tax credit, the age limit is 17 years. The child cannot be more than 17 years as of 31st December 2019. It's a wonderful credit. It's helping out a lot of people. And I hope you get it this time. And you will it definitely puts a smile on people's faces. This was it. And I will be back again next week with another video. And I'm planning to do more on credits, because I feel that since the tax season is upon us and people want to know more about how they can save taxes, so I'm thinking I will talk more about the tax credits that people can get. All right, till next time, have a good day. See you again.